till 10 o'clock. Here's the news.
Today on the Rebel Podcast, we're going to talk about a subject that I get all kinds of inquiries from my audience. I get a lot of business questions. I've invited Tyler Cooksey to join Waylon and I to discuss how to go to work and how to survive in this climate of very difficult circumstances. And how do you work in order to be the most successful that you can? Because we do live in a culture where we see a lot of the housewives kind of behavior. Okay. You don't always have to win the argument, because usually if you're at work and you're butting heads with somebody, whether it's a customer, a coworker, or God forbid, somebody way up above your boss, right? Or even your boss, or you may win that little battle, but the whole war is what's important. If you can't learn to keep your mouth shut and learn how to subtly but very effectively get your point across at the right moment and not have to have an audience and do a performance, you're going to win every time that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. There was a class that have been building out, and when we hire new managers into my department, I handle a lot of like the manager training, and there's like the company's way of management, and then there's like how you use this tool. So there's like technical application, and then there's like how our company maneuvers things. And one of the things that we cover is like building that personal brand. And a lot of that personal brand like is about like your toolbox of skills that you have and then how you market it. So you may say, I'm just a call center employee, but there's actually so much more to that, right? Like you're timely, you're organized, you're a note taker. But then the other component of it outside of your skills is like, how is your emotional intelligence? Do you make decisions based on emotion, or do you do it based as fact? I am blessed. I don't really ever have like heated conversations with the above or like really the below, because I try to remain rather neutral and I don't respond with any type of emotion because it's usually wrong or it's backhanded. Well, with me, it's backhanded. I can be sassy, but I try to make sure that I'm very neutral when I'm speaking. And if that means that I slow how I'm talking, or if I bring it to a more monotone level to make sure that there isn't any messages being conveyed, it's such an important part because you won't win fighting dirty in public. It looks like you're not buttoned up. So
it looks like you're very, very small. And the more you talk, the smaller you get.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about how to nail an interview so that you can get yourself in the place, because now you've been unemployed for a while. You've got, when somebody's unemployed, like myself even, right? When you're unemployed for over a month or two, you start feeling like, what's wrong with me? Oh my God, I'm not valuable. So, what are some key components, Waylon, that you could share, and then maybe bounce some things off of Tyler too when he's interviewing?
Yeah, I'm sure Tyler has a lot of insights, or a lot of insight on this. I think the most important thing is studying the actual job description that you're applying for, and connecting the dots on how your experience and your knowledge relate to that, and being confident in that when you're speaking to the interviewer. Another thing, I had an interviewer tell me once that, and this was after the interview was over, that a question I asked, they thought was so important, and it's just a simple question. At the end of the interview, I asked, if I'm chosen for this role, if I'm hired, what do you want to see from me to know that you made the right choice? Yeah, because you're basically saying, I want to know what's expected of me and how can I make sure that you're happy with the outcome of choosing me for this role. I think that's really important. And also being confident and not being too, which is really hard. It's something I struggle with too, but not being too nervous when you're in the interview, being willing to open up and, really sell yourself in the discussion, and not being afraid of sounding too too conceited or something. Really talk about your accomplishments and what you've done and what your abilities are.
Yes.
What do you think, Tyler?
I always tell everybody I am actually gearing up to do interviews. They start on Friday. I always say when the person interviewing you asks, "Do you have any more questions?" Don't ever say, "Nope, that's it," and then don't say
Mhm.
anything. Like, because I'm like thinking as the interviewer, like, okay, cool. Like, you didn't want to know anything from me or the role itself. But some of those questions that I really like to look for is like, what does success in this role look like? So like what does good look like to you
Mhm.
specifically the interviewer? And then more importantly, like how do you measure success in the role? So what's it look like and how do I do it? So like a lot of times people will ask like, what are the metrics? What are the KPIs? How do you measure the success? That indicates to me that they're gauging themselves. Like, okay, I think the interview went well. Let's see if this is something that I can actually do through what they're telling me. I think that those are really important things. I think also applying for roles that you feel confident applying for allows you to be a little bit more confident. If you're shooting for the stars on LinkedIn and you're applying to whatever because of the pay band is listed in the bottom, you're probably going to get choked up. But I think being very, very clear around doing your pre-work before the interview and understanding what the competencies of the roles and what the expectation of the role is, and then spinning that conversation to market those skills to buckle down onto all of the objectives that they're looking for when they're trying to fill that role.
I think all of that is awesome. Absolutely awesome. The only thing I would add that I have found very important, like when I was interviewing people for roles to work for me, was that I wanted to know that they weren't just coming into the room and demanding this high pay, because like you said, they look at the pay band, right? And I hired very talented people. But I wanted to know that they knew their stuff enough that they could come in and tell me how they could help me. Like, where are my holes? Where do you see my shortcomings in this company? Or what do you think what we offer, right? Well, how do you think we could improve an offer? In other words, come into the room with some information that might be valuable to me.
Mhm.
Don't be so nervous and scared that you're sitting there and I can see you perspire, right?
Yeah.
Because then I know you're not going to do well in front of a customer because you might get nervous there and sweat and then you don't look confident, right?
Yeah.
But come in there and say, I really want this job and here's why. Here's what I can accomplish here. And here's how I can partner with you. So act like you're already there.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's important. And showing what you can do, how you can help them, like you said, it's important to, I think, um, not just go in wanting to land the job, but also wanting to be, um, show that you're wanting to be actually successful and actually do the job.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people forget that this is a role where you're going to be on a team. You're going to have to perform. And how are you going to integrate in that team? And how are you going to work and treat other people? And if you don't go in there with some enthusiasm and confidence, like you both have talked about, I don't know what I can do with that because it's more personality. You can always learn a technical thing, right? But you can't really learn the personality. So when I was hired over at Alcatel-Lucent and AT&T, I went in there and I started at the very bottom and I was on this thing called the screw bench. And that literally meant I took a pneumatic screwdriver and I screwed together aerial terminals. Now I could have stayed there the rest of my life, but I had an aspiration and I went up and so forth. So one day my boss walks in the room and now I'm a vice president and he says to me, "Have you ever sold software?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, tomorrow you're going to start selling software." And so for a minute, I was like, oh my God, how am I going to learn about that in 24 hours? So I just looked at him. I said, okay, because I trusted my boss because he was excellent and he believed in people and he gave you confidence because he trusted you. So I walked into a room with engineers from a product management group I represented, and I was preparing to go to a customer. And these engineers told me that it was impossible to do what the customer wanted. And I said, why is that? And nobody could give me a good reason. It was basically because we've always done it this way for 100 years, and this is the way we're going to do it. And I said, well, I don't believe in any of that. I believe here's how we're going to do it. So that caused me to make a commitment to a customer. And when I did that, it was the largest sale of that kind in the world. And I made world history because I didn't take no for an answer. And I had to have a lot of internal discussion over that. And it came with pain and it came with some suffering. But at the end of the day, if you really believe in what your client's asking you for, it's very important. Why am I telling you that story? Because that story is the software that launched the iPhone network, which helps you do IP address management, which helps you send text messages and documents. Okay? So if you believe in yourself and if you believe you have value, and like each one of you have very clearly said today, you feel empowered, you feel valuable, you feel confident, what's going to stop you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
your
think your
dreams, your
story, oh, sorry.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think Deborah, your story really illustrates that. Well, and yours also, Tyler. I mean, to go from, um, you know, to have that confidence to be able to manage people, and because you started out in a salon, doing hair, and so
Yeah.
to be able to manage, project managers after doing that, I think that's really amazing. And Deborah, your story goes without saying. I mean, it's incredible. It's just self-belief that can, and belief in what you can do that really can take you to wherever you want to go.
Exactly. And believe me, I was threatened with being fired and everything else, but I just kept going because I knew I was right. And I had this little nugget of knowledge that nobody else had. And that's what you got to know about yourself. What do you uniquely bring to the table? And even if it's only a great sense of humor and a willingness to learn, if you get in there and you work hard, you're going to do well.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I tell people a lot, like your dreams or like in a lot of ways, like your dreams have to be aligned with helping the customer's experience. And none of those things live within the corporate red tape that they try to put around you. You have to be able to step out of that boundary. You absolutely have to. And the biggest way to get traction on that, in my experience, has always been like build your allies at all levels of the business. You're
That,
going to need their buy-in on something somewhere.
yes.
Um, and that's proven to be rather fruitful for me in my experience. So,
And you're spot on. That's absolutely critical. There is
yep.
no doubt in my mind because if you have someone there who's willing to believe in you because they've seen you perform consistently and step up, then you have a grace when you need it to prove yourself, right? And that's
Yep.
really, really important. It's been a wonderful conversation today, and I'm really glad that we've gotten together. Thank you so much, Tyler, for taking time out of your busy day and being with Waylon and I for this talk. And is there any last thing that you have to say?
I would just say take the risk, market yourself in a way that makes you stand out from other people. And yeah, I think though I in the current job market, that's really what you need to be the most successful. We're seeing in the tech industry reorgs, layoffs. We see it all over the place, right? And if you're part of a reorg and you're in a role that you didn't want to be in before, it might seem mundane in the moment, but there's going to be some new skill that you can put in your toolbox from that. Take that and leverage it. That's just free learning. Take them for what they have, get that skill, market it, use it to get to a different role, either in your company or
Outside.
in a different company. Yeah. And if you're going through the layoff thing, just continue to market yourself. Use your downtime to spend time with your family and get those certifications and things that you want to do, and just don't lose hope. The job market can be absolutely tough right now, but I believe that with perseverance and proper marketing, you will get in front of somebody who's going to think you're fantastic.
I give
Agreed.
a thumbs up. That was wonderful advice. And thank you so much. And thank you, Waylon, too. I really appreciate you guys coming together with me today. So go out, be blessed, and have a great day.
Go and glow.
Go and glow. Thank you for watching this episode of the Rebel Podcast with Tyler Cooksey and Waylon. Please like, subscribe, and share with anyone who you think can benefit from this episode of the Rebel Podcast. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support.